Hi team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prabh and thanks for sharing a great response on my first part of ISO 27001 and to-end implementation. In this video, we're going to discuss about the first practical step, how to create project initiation document, what are the questions we should ask the stakeholders. So all those things we're going to cover in this particular video. As I promised you, ISO series will be pure hands-on and we're going to discuss about all the pointers which is required you to implement 27001 from scratch. So if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos on a similar topic. Along with that, before watching this video, do watch my part 1 because that give you the holistic view how ISO 27001 implement end to end. And after that video, if you see this video, you can able to correlate. So without wasting a time, let's start with the first part. Thank you. See, when we're talking about ISO 27001 implementation or any kind of a project you want to start, you need to first take the management approval on that. Because your project initiation document justify the project cost and everything. But what kind of a data we need to enter in project initiation document? For that also you need to ask some questions. Because based on the question only you get the visibility that 27001 is implement in which part of the company or in which particular branch. So this is the template we have which we create, and this is a sample template which I prepared for this particular session, and I used to have same template for my project. And in this video we're going to quickly drive this particular template, how to write the statements and how to create the table metrics. Along with that, we also going to discuss about how we update the table content, because no video talk about how to update the table content revision history. So in this video, we're going to discuss this part only. Okay, so we have a case study here. The case study is we are implementing a ISO 27001 for one company, which is called as Aspirants Technologies or Aspirants Consulting. So it is my company only. So I'm taking a reference. I want to implement 27001 in my company. So I got a brief idea. Company is Aspirant Consulting Private Limited. Location is Noida, India. Industry is consulting and information security training, and size is 100 employees. So when you start any ISO 27001, implementation, let's say example, you want to start from zero. So these are the minimum 4 details you need to know. What is the name of the company, where it is located, what kind of industry, and size. Same question I ask my customer. We have other question also, but at least with this, starting with 4 questions, will give you the viewpoint how this ISO going to be implemented. Okay, so that's why I say name is company is Aspirant, location is Noida, India, industry is consulting and training, and size is 100 employees. So that's the first parameter we have. So let's understand about the background of the company. So Aspirant Consulting Private Limited is a growing consulting firm specializing in information security training and advisory services. Okay, they do the training and they do the advisory services. Fine. The company has 100 employees. Fine. And operate from its headquarter in India, Noida, which is okay. So they have a headquarter Noida. Aspirant has been providing services to the different client base, including the government agencies, financial institutions, and multinational corporations. Due to the nature of its work, the company handles sensitive informations, including the client data, training materials, and internal intellectual property. Fine. So this information I document in the slide. This is something you will get to know when you have a first meeting with the customer. Is it clear? Or from their website. Okay, but preferably you need to have one meeting before you share any scoping document. It is always good to have a first meeting to understand what they do. This is where the first mistake people does is simply share the scoping document. Okay, this is a question you have to fill. No, that doesn't connect the human emotions. Okay, because in this video, I'm also going to discuss about how to retain the customer. So after having a meeting, I got the visibility, they do this. And now question is, the first which I ask from the customer is, what is your goal? You want to achieve certification or you really want to implement the controls? Because 50% of the companies want a certification for a marketing purpose, and 50% of the companies want to implement really 27001 in their company. So here I try to understand them, okay, what is their objective, why they want to implement 27001 in their organization. So they simply said, Prabh, I want to enhance the protection of sensitive information, fine. I want to comply with the client and regulatory requirement, fine. And I want to strengthen the market position, because aspirants is doing training and consulting. If they are itself is not certified, they cannot able to prove in the market. So makes sense. One of the primary principle is they want to protect information market and comply. Now here is a tip. Sometimes what happens, customer is not very clear with 27,000 and why we achieving. So you can at least add these 2 pointers: regulatory requirement, because in some regulatory it's mandatory to have a information security requirement. See, there's no regulation say you need to have a 27,001. They say you need to have a risk management, you need to have an information security policy, you need to have an information security control. So 27,001 standard is directly meeting the regulatory requirement. So if you have a zero visibility, Prabh, how to create the scoping document, remember, these are the minimum thing you can add in any scoping document, like protection of sensitive information, comply with regulatory requirement, and strengthening the market position. This is the minimum thing you can add in the objective, because when you're creating a actual scoping document after the project initiation, you need to address the objective. Now, when we're talking about 27,001, the most important thing is to scope the implementation. You need to know the scoping. I want to implement 27,001 where? Are we implementing 27,001 in one particular branch, or I want to implement 27,001 in a multiple branch of the same company, or they want to implement 27,001 in a particular business, because this is how it vary the cost. Okay, so scoping is a very important part when it comes to 27,000, and this is where the people does mistake. So don't worry. Next slide, we're going to discuss about how to finalize the scope. See, when we're talking about scoping, the scoping is categorized into 3 sections. One is information system. It means what are the system you want to add. Second is physical. It means physical boundary, like how many buildings need to be comply with 27,001, which include multiple branches. Okay. And the third part is called as a organizational. Organization means geographical boundary. Let me repeat again. Information system, when you're talking about, it is same like, servers and everything. Okay, what are the business process? Servers are included in the information system. Second is called as a physical. Physical means physical boundary of the building. Example, I want to implement 27,001 for Noida office because it holds the sensitive information. And third part is called as an organization. Organization means geographical boundary, which is the office of the organization. We also have some kind of a temporary boundaries. Like we have an organization unit like departments. Okay, service projects, subsidiaries. We have an organization structure and responsibility of manager, and sometimes we have a business process also, like sales management, procurement process, and hiring. So when you having a meeting with any customer and all that, you need to ask, do you want the 27,001 to implement for the organization, or you're going for the 27,001 for your particular business? One simple fundamental rule you need to remember is, any process which does not hold a sensitive information will not part of a scoping. Repeat again, any process which is not been directly or indirectly involved in the sensitive information storage, they will not part of a scoping. So this is how you can able to define the scope. So when you ask, let's say example, I have a business, so they do training. Okay, so I ask them question like how you store data. So we have a CRM which store data, so CRM will be part of a scope. Market team sometimes use data, so their server should be part of a scope. Operation team want to access email addresses, so they want to send an email, they will part of this particular scope. So this is how. Now we have another office which is in the Bangalore. Let's say example, in Bangalore it is like a offsite. They only check the website, they review the website, so that will not part of a scope because it doesn't hold any information. So first fundamental rule is how to finalize the scope is, do check this process and server or location hold sensitive data. If yes, it is part of a scoping. Is it clear? So one of the most important thing here is to finalize a scope. So that's why we say scope is finalized based on number of systems, okay, number of physical boundary, and number of geographical boundary, office of the organization. That's the most important part we have. So in the past, what happened is, I've seen more than 100 questions, 50 questions has been asked initially from the customer to finalize the scope. No, your overall questions should be based on the 3 sections. Okay, one, which check the educate governance do you have? So you have a question around educate governance. Second is, do you need to comply with some regulations? So your question will be around regulations. And how many process you have? So you have a question around process. So your actual questions will be organized into 3 categories: governance questions, regulation questions, and process questions. Let's take example. Do you have a policy? So policy reflect the governance question, which demonstrate they have a information security governance culture. May I know what are so where you operate? Sometimes they don't have visibility. What is the regulation? So we ask them question is, where do you operate? So you say we are operating in India. We have a customer base on fintech. So we understood RBI is a regulatory requirement. Then we ask list of processes which going to hold or deal with the business, and will they hold any kind of a data. So here what happened is we have organized my questions, okay, in a form of group. So I will share you the list of questions which should be asked. So this is in my next slide. I'm going to discuss. One thing is that when you schedule any meeting, you have to ask some question which cannot be sent on email, but if you want, you can send on email, or it's better you can have a discussion directly with the stakeholder and ask this question. One of the first thing you should ask is, what is a primary business activity for your organization? Okay. So by asking this question, you're trying to understand the core business activity, which is help in aligning the ISMS within the organization primary objectives. For example, if the organization is focused on financial services, so securing the customer financial data become top priority. We doing a training and we holding a email ID. So protecting of email ID is become my top priority. Second question we need to ask is, where are your main offices located? So knowing the geographical location help in defining the ISMS scope, especially when considering the legal regulatory requirement that may differ by the location. It also helps to identify the potential physical security concerns. Third, how many employees are there in an organization, because that define the cost. So number of employees provide the insight into the scale of ISMS implementation, and it also helps in determining the resource needed to comply with the information security controls. And last is basically how many departments we have. So department will basically give the visibility about how many businesses process are associated with the ISMS implementation. So these are the primary questions which give you the viewpoint of the organization. Second is, you need to also ask about the data. So first question you should ask is, what type of sensory information do you handle? This question you should ask the CIO or CISO. The reason of asking this question is give you the visibility about the type of sensitive information they hold, and it helped in determining the critical asset that need to be protected. And this also influence the selection of appropriate security control. Okay. Nowadays what happened, we also ask the question around, do you use cloud services? Because understanding where data is stored on-prem or cloud affect the ISMS scope, and a different security control may also require depending upon the environment. And this question helps to identify the potential third-party risk. And we also ask about, do we have any critical IT systems or applications? So in our case, CRM is a critical application. So the reason of asking this question is to identify critical IT systems or application, ensure these are prioritized within the ISMS. So these are the basic questions we should ask to get the viewpoint about the organization. Another question we basically ask around is current security measures. Understand, what is the current security policy? So, and assess the maturity of the policy. And this basically helped me to identify gap that need to address and determine the level of effort required for the ISMS implementation. Along with that, we also understand about current technologies they have, DLP, firewall and all that we might ask, because it also help in understanding the current security posture of the organization. Then we also ask for the regulatory requirement. What are the legal regulatory requirement you basically follow? Because if it's a regulatory requirement to have a policy and everything, we have to comply. And sometimes what happens, many clients and partner have a contractual security requirement that must be met. So understand this requirement, ensure the ISMS scope includes your controls, satisfy the obligation, also maintain the good business relationship. Along with that, we can ask, do you have a current risk management process? And ask for the risk assessment reports or treatment reports and all that, which also give the visibility about the risk appetite. So that's why if you see 5.1 question, how does organization currently manage the risk? So here we try to understand the current risk management practice, which also provide insights how mature the organization approach to risk, and it also help in identify area that need improvement. Along with that, what is your organization general approach, like knowing the organization risk appetite, help in tailoring the ISMS to match the organization attitude toward the risk. So these are things that we should ask. This is a basic question we should ask, which also give the visibility. Now there are some questions we have to ask from a scoping perspective, because now I have decided I have to implement the ISMS. Okay. So till now we have a visibility about the business and everything, but now we need to see which department will become under the scope of ISMS and which department will not become under the ISMS. So defining which department or locations are included in the ISMS ensure that all critical area are covered while avoiding the unnecessary inclusion. And this help in focusing resources where they are not needed. And we have to see, is this area you believe to be excluded from ISMS? So we ask for the justification. If they say, okay, this branch to be removed, I will ask for justification. So excluding certain area from the ISMS scope, okay, can reduce the complexity and cost also. And this question helps to identify area that may not be relevant to the information security management, because if you add more elements, to the scope, according to the cost will be also high. Then we also ask who will be the sponsor of the ISMS project, because when you're creating a project initiation document, in that you need to submit this data, and you need to also ask about the resources that is basically allocate for this project. What kind of a support we get. Like we need sometime backup administrator, firewall security team is required. And sometime we need a GRC people are also required. So we can basically document the list of resources. So I have some sample script, like, what is the organizational structure of a company. So they will say we have a hierarchical structures, CEO at the top, followed by the department heads. Then second is, can you provide detail about exit security policy? Yes, we have a policy, access control. So I can share this document with you. So then we have to review the documents. Then what regulatory requirement in your organization we need to comply with, GDPR, India IT Act and all that. Who are the key stakeholders? So one key stakeholder include employee, customer, supplier. So these are sample scripts we have. Now, once we get this document, okay, the first document in the ISMS we prepare is not a scoping, but project initiation document. It is a document which justify the value of the ISMS project, and this document include the cost, the document include the scope, the document include the context of ISMS implementation. So it's a first document that we submit in the management. Once they approved, then only we will create a ISMS scoping document. Okay. So we have to create a project document, and the project document refer also as a PID, and it is a mandatory requirement of certification requirement. So when auditor come for an audit, he asks, please share me the email evidence of a PID approval. Okay, so ISMS project initiation document is referred to the ISMS function, which is a document outline the plan, scope, objective, resource, timeline, which is required for implementing ISMS 27001 in the organization. Now here in the first part, we talk about scope. Scope is very important. Okay, it outlines the key objectives of the project and include the area that we need to implement. Second, it's also include the governance structure, which describe who responsible for what and what done by the each person. Then third part is called as a resource allocation. Okay, so resource allocation is basically the another important part we have. How many resource we have to allocate, like how many human will be involved, how many technical resources are required. So we need to document the availability and allocation of resources, and their cost is there. Then timeline and milestone, the risk associated with the project. If the project could not able to deliver on time, what is the impact? If project deliver on time, what is the impact? So risk management of the project also document, communication plan, and project approval and buy-in. Let me show you. So first document we talk about the your project initiation document. So let me explain you how this document look like. Okay, so we'll start with the template. Okay, so this is the template you have to prepare. First of all, when you're creating a template, you need to add a header. Okay, the name of the client, and make it classification internal because it has some costing and all that. So we always keep the data labeling as a classification internal. It is not required for 27001, but it give you the reflection of, okay, spelling you have to check. So yeah, so it reflect your culture, it reflect your practice, that okay, it shows the maturity of your document. Is it clear? Then you give the title, project plan. So you can see the Arial font is 16. Now this is something optional. This is something I create, like document classification internal. Version is basically used to track the numbers. For example, if modify, then I will have to revise the version. Version is used for the integrity purpose. Then when we creating the document, on that document date, we giving 16 August 2024, and document author is Prabh Nair. So I am the consultant and document owner is Aspirant Technology. So I am a custodian, I am a consultant, and I'm creating a document for aspirants. Okay. Now here what happens, second section is we have a revision history. It's very important your document should have a revision history. So if today is suppose 8th September 2024, and if any revision happens, so we have to update the version number, version 1.1, date, revision author, and summary of changes, because it reflects the integrity and it give you the idea about the company is following a change management process. If you find version revision history problem, then it is also come under the non-compliance, because unauthorized changes to the document, it against the change management process. Now here the distribution list is CEO, definitely, because she is the one who going to approve. Abhishar is a CIO, RD is a CTO. So I have to share the distribution list. Approval authority, CEO should approve because it's a budget. Okay, we give in the date, Abhishar, and then we have a RD. You can have a vice versa also. Now this is how you have to create a table. So here what happened, how to create this table is not a timetable. So I have created matrix here. So example, like when you're creating a table, you have to first give the heading. You can see heading 1. Okay, you can see the heading 1 here, heading. Okay, so make sure your all the title should be in a common heading. So like introduction is a heading here. Project objective is a heading. Okay, so you can create the table in this way. So if you create this way, so you just need to create the table entry like that, and then you will update the table, update the page number only, or update the entire table. So that is possible. Okay. But here the question is, Prabh, how to get this? So there is an option, you can go to reference first. But before that, you need to add all the data. Okay. Like you have to make sure you're giving all the heading with the reference. Okay. So here you can see heading 1, this is the content. Heading 1, this is the content. Heading 1, this is the content. And you can keep one page space here. Okay. And you can basically go to reference, and there is an option you will get is table of content. So you click on that, it will reflect here automatically. So this is how you can create table of content. And whatever if you're creating a suppose sub element here, example, this one. Okay. And you give the suppose value is heading 2. Heading 2. Okay. So again here you have to update the entire table. So see, you can see FF come under sub. So no video talk about this much about a granular things. Okay. Because this is what I face when I was preparing a document. So I thought the challenge what I face, I will make sure my viewers should not face this issue. So this is how you create. Now, first thing, when you're creating a document, you need to add the introduction. You have to give the introduction. Okay. So always talk about what is 27001, and then talk about the name of the company where we need to implement. As I said, this is the project objective. Now, when you have a completely blank mind, what to add in objective, copy paste the same thing. Example, like HE 27001, protect sensitive information, comply with the regulatory requirement, market position, and all that. To be frank, even I've seen some of the templates, they follow the same thing. So project objective has been defined. Then we define the project scope. This data you will get after sharing those questions. Example, my all data stored in Noida headquarters. So operation will be Noida. Department which hold like employee data, customer data hold by IT, HR, finance. So they will part of the scope. Technology, like in my case, we have a website, okay, which hold a PI information, CRM, which hold PI information, third party data center, which hold PI information, that is a part of a scope. And client data, proprietary training material, internal properties, these are my data type. Okay. Example, like my slides is my internal intellectual property. Training material is my internal properties. Your email ID is my client data, and we have some internal invoices. Out of scope is personal device of the employee. Definitely it will not part of a scope, and activity unrelated to the information security. So we have clearly defined the in scope and out scope. It is very important you have to document this because you have to submit this as a certification requirement. Now, next thing is that you need to document the key deliverables. Okay, by implementing the ISMS, what are the deliverables we have? So we will produce the ISMS policy. We will document the risk assessment treatment plan. We document the employee trainings, and we have audit report and certification. So this is the deliverables we have for this project. Fine. Now, who will do what? So you have to document the roles and responsibility. You don't need to document so much in detail, to be frank. For you, my suggestion is that you can say ISMS team, project manager, project sponsor. That's it. You don't need multiple things. It is just to create a fancy document. You can do that. Otherwise, project sponsor, which is a Deepti, in my case, CEO. Project manager, I myself can give. ISMS team, I have a delegate custodian. So that is the only 3 things required. It's up to you. You want to add, you can add, but 3 or 4 things are required. It is not at all related to your certification. Then we are moving to the timeline. This is a very important, you have to document. Okay, example, project phase 1 will take 1 month. And we're talking about the activity. Then gap analysis, it will take 2 months to 3 months. And this is the activity. Then we have a ISMS implementation because we have to build the policy, we have to do risk assessment, which average take 4 to 7 months. Now here what happens, some companies already having a template. So if you update that in 2 months, in 1 month, we can do that actually. Otherwise, you have to start from zero. You have to build all the documents. Average, it will take 4 to 7 months. Then we have a implementation training where we roll out the ISMS, conduct the awareness session. It will take 8 to 10 months. It means not 8 to 10 months. It means 2 months. 8th month to 10th month, it will take that time. And then 1 month it will take for internal audit. And on the 12th month, we obtain the certification. You can do this activity in 6 months also, 3 months also, depending upon how serious you are with implementation. So it's very important. You have to document the timeline. This will be remain a standard. Like in my case right now, the project initiation document I prepare, right? Okay, so that is something I'm doing. I will take 1 month or I will take 15, 20 days. It's up to me. Then I will talk about resources are required in the implementation. From a human resource point of view, Prabh is required, project manager. Naresh technical lead is required. Naresh implementation lead is required. Shankar is required for the internal audit. Now it's up to you. You need to add 4 resources or you can add 2 resources only. Like Prabh is a consultant and we need one junior and the period should be available for 6 months and commitment is 5 days per week. Financial resources mean how much capital is required for ISMS implementation. This value you will enter only after having a scoping. Okay, I'm implementing 27,001 for this location. So this will be the capital budget. This is the revenue and this is the contingency fund. So this is the financial resources. We're talking about the cost. So here we have a budget estimate. So we have to divide the budget into detail. Okay, standard we have to purchase. It is just a fake value I enter. Okay, consultancy fees, training and awareness, technology upgrade, certification audit. Okay, our ongoing cost will be maintenance of ISMS post implementation, internal audit, recertification, and continuous training and awareness. So this is something we have to document the estimate. Is it clear? This is basically talking about the financial resource from capital budget perspective, but this is the actual budget is required for implementing a ISMS. It's very important in your PID, document the budget estimate. You don't need to have such detail. You can say ISO 27001 standard and implementation overall cost is suppose $10,000. You don't need to bring such granular level of details, but it is good to give the visibility. Now you also talk about what is the challenge with this project. So challenge can be if the resource is not available, then it will delay. If you don't go by 27001, we have a non-compliance. If we don't implement, it is a rapid. So we're talking about as risk associated with this project. If we don't do that, what is the risk and how we counter that? So that is basically called as a risk assessment. And we also tell them how we're going to communicate the result, how we're going to communicate the progress about this implementation. So here we talk about monthly progress meeting. We have quarterly updates, email notification. You can make it one. Like it's not necessary you need to add all the 3 elements. It's up to you. See, a good consultant is the one who keep it simple. So if you want, you can do that. You can tell them we're doing a monthly meeting, we're having a quarterly update, and we have an email notification. And if you really want to update something to the client, you can have a client updates and regularity. 99.5% you can remove this. It's not required. But at least you need to document the internal communication plan. You know how you're going to communicate about the progress of this project. You need to demonstrate to the board because see, you need to tell them why we're doing that, how we're doing that. Then you also talk about training and awareness, how we're doing the training and awareness, and how we're going to monitor the ISMS. So this is something we have, and then we have to document the deliverables. You know, what will be the deliverables in this project? We will have a gap assessment. So we have to explain what is gap assessment. Then we create a security policy. Okay. Then we have a statement of applicability. That's another deliverable. ISMS policy. Then other ISMS document, process and control, risk assessment process, risk report, risk treatment plan, audit report, certification. Okay, so these are the deliverables we have in this project. Once we get all the deliverables, it means we have completed the project. So it's very important to document the deliverables and their descriptions. And descriptions should be so simple, which is easy to understand. And then we have approvals. And then we send this document to my CEO. And if they approved, it means they have approved my budget, they have approved my timeline. And then I will save that email as an evidence during a certification. Any point of time project is going against the schedule, will halt the project, resubmit the project initiation document with the version update, approve, get that approval, and then I will proceed with the project. So because this will be my benchmark document. So this is something we will do first when we start the project initiation document. So project scope should be generally defined before the gap assessment. Is it clear? So I have something activity which I can show you. So the scoping document we're talking about, right? That initial scope only help you to set the boundary. Okay, where you want to implement 27001. It also define what area of organization, process, system, locations are intended to be included in the ISMS. And it include defining what department, location, type of data you want to evaluate. So I have not did gap assessment so far. We just talking about what need to be included in the ISMS 27001. So again, the purpose of the gap assessment is to identify actual gap between the current practice. Okay, and after the gap assessment, the scope can be refined. And that I'm going to discuss in the next video, how to do the scoping statement. Okay, so once we get an approval, then only we can do the scoping statement, right? So that's the one thing. So we have to define the initial scope. Okay, then we conduct the gap assessment, and then we refine the scope and we prepare the project context document. Is it clear? One more important thing, project document, when you're talking about project initiation document, along with that, we also submit the business case. So first we submit the business case, explain them about why this is important, and then we basically submit the project initiation document. Is it clear? So business case is the first, is the initial presentation, and then we talk about the project initiation document. So the sample I have shown you, it is a sample of project initiation document. So let me show you the business case sample also, so you get a better visibility. So this is how the business case look like, where we talk about why 27001 is important. Then we talk about the benefit. So you need to document the benefit. Then you talk about the financial benefit. Okay. Then you talk about the risk if you don't go for 27001. And then we talk about the project timeline. Then we talk about the cost. And then you talk about the ROI. Then you talk about the budget request. So it's up to you. You want to, so management don't have a time, then you will submit the project initiation document in which the same content is there. But the company really want to understand initially why we going for 27001, then you can cut short this slide, and according to that, you can present this slide. Is it clear? Once you present this slide, they like the idea, then you will submit the PID. And once they approve the PID, then the first document we create is ISMS scope context. In my next video, we're going to discuss about how to create a scope context, which is required for the implementation. Do let me know how do you find this video, and do you find this video special or something different from what you have seen in the past on 27001? And do share your suggestions and in the comment sections, which help me to improve my video. Because one thing you need to understand is without you, I'm nothing. And you are one of the biggest motivator for me to build this content. It really took me 1 year to build this content after doing a lot of hard work and research. So do let me know how do you find this series and what is the special you like about this video. Thank you so much. Good day. Bye.